You're sitting there right now, staring at your screen, watching candles move, and somewhere deep inside you know something is wrong. Not with the market. With you. With how you're living. You came to trading for freedom, but you're more trapped than ever. Trapped by the charts, trapped by the anxiety, trapped by the constant feeling that you're one trade away from either breakthrough or total collapse. And here's what nobody tells you when you start. Trading isn't just about making money. It never was. Trading is a mirror that shows you exactly who you are, and most people can't handle what they see. Let me ask you something honest. When was the last time you made a trading decision that wasn't driven by fear or greed? When was the last time you closed your laptop and felt genuinely calm, genuinely in control? For most traders, that moment never comes. They spend months, sometimes years, chasing this idea that if they just find the right strategy, the right indicator, the right entry point, everything will click. But it doesn't click. Because the problem was never technical. The problem is that you're trying to use trading as a tool to make money when you should be using it as a training ground to redesign how you think, how you decide, and ultimately how you live. Right now, you're probably living reactively. The market moves up, you feel the rush of FOMO and jump in. The market crashes, you panic and close everything. You lose a trade, and suddenly you're angry, looking for revenge, trying to get back what you lost. You win a trade, and instead of walking away satisfied, you want more. You double down. You overtrade. You convince yourself that this time it's different, but deep down you know you're lying to yourself. This isn't trading. This is just reacting. And if you look closely at the rest of your life, you'll see the same pattern. Someone else gets promoted, you feel restless. You face a problem, you panic. You get a little success, you overextend and burn out. It's the same cycle over and over. The reason you're stuck isn't because you don't know enough about trading. It's because you don't have a system for making decisions under pressure. And without that, trading will destroy you. Not because the market is cruel, but because you keep destroying yourself. Every revenge trade, every time you break your own rules, every moment you let fear or greed hijack your mind, you're reinforcing the exact patterns that are keeping you trapped. And the worst part, you know it. You feel it. But you don't know how to stop. Here's the truth most traders never realize until it's too late. Trading won't give you the life you want if you only treat it as a money-making tool. Trading truly changes your life only when you use it as a training ground for strategic thinking. Then what you gain isn't just profit. It's a decision-making system capable of steering your entire life in a direction you consciously choose. Because once you understand how to make good decisions in trading, you start making good decisions everywhere, in your career, in your relationships, in how you spend your time, in how you protect your energy, in how you build the future you actually want instead of just hoping it happens. Think about how you trade right now. You're probably asking yourself, will this trade win? That's a short-term, reactive question. A strategic trader asks something completely different. They ask, is this decision moving me closer to or farther from the life I want to live? Does it make me freer, or does it tie me tighter to pressure, emotion, and instability? When you shift to that question, everything changes. A trade is no longer a gamble. It becomes a brick in the structure of the life you're building. And suddenly, you're not just trying to make money. You're designing a life where you're in control. Let me tell you about a trader I knew. Smart guy. Spent 2 years studying charts, backtesting strategies, reading every book he could find. And he was still losing. Not because his strategies were bad. He was losing because every time he sat down to trade, he was carrying the weight of his entire life into those decisions. He was trading to prove he wasn't a failure. He was trading to escape the job he hated. He was trading because he needed to feel like he was in control of something. And the market, which doesn't care about any of that, kept punishing him. One day, after another brutal losing streak, he stopped. Not just stopped trading. Stopped and asked himself a different question. Not, how do I win more trades? But, why am I trading like this? What am I actually trying to build here? That question changed everything for him. because he realized he wasn't trading strategically. He was trading emotionally. And emotions, as powerful as they are, make terrible decision makers. Fear makes you exit too early. Greed makes you hold too long. FOMO makes you chase price. Revenge makes you overtrade. And all of it, every single emotional reaction, is just you trying to control something you can't control. The market. You can't control the market. You never could. But you can control your process. You can control your risk. You can control your response. And when you focus on controlling what you actually can control, the emotional chaos starts to fade. This is where most people misunderstand trading completely. They think discipline means forcing yourself to follow rules. But real discipline isn't about force. It's about alignment. When your decisions are aligned with a clear vision of what you're building, discipline becomes natural. You don't need to force yourself to cut a loss when you understand that protecting your capital today means you can trade tomorrow. You don't need to force yourself to stay out of a bad setup when you understand that not every opportunity is worth taking. The quality of decisions matters more than the quantity of decisions. You don't need to trade a lot to live well. You need to trade the right way so you don't destroy yourself. And here's where it gets deeper. When you apply this thinking to trading, you begin designing a different lifestyle. You're no longer forced to stare at screens all day. You stop letting the market's heartbeat decide your own. You start filtering opportunities the same way you filter relationships, commitments, and goals in your life. A strategic trader understands the concept of stacking decisions. A good decision in trading is one that creates more good options in the future. Reducing your position size today won't make you rich immediately, but it helps you preserve clarity, preserve capital, and preserve your ability to keep playing tomorrow. That is exactly how you should view every decision in life. A decision to take care of your health. A decision to learn a foundational skill. A decision to step away from a toxic environment. None of these offer instant rewards, but they create positioning that opens more doors in your future. Think about the last time you overtrade. Really think about it. What was happening? You probably had a loss, and you wanted to make it back immediately. Or you had a win, and you felt invincible. Either way, you weren't thinking strategically. You were reacting, and that reaction cost you. Not just money, but clarity. Not just profit, but trust in yourself. Because every time you break your own rules, you're telling yourself that your rules don't matter. And if your rules don't matter in trading, why would they matter anywhere else? That's how overtrading in the market becomes overcommitting in life. That's how revenge trading becomes revenge living. You keep trying to force outcomes instead of building process. The shift happens when you start seeing the market as a probability system, not a place to prove yourself. And when you stop trying to prove you're right, you free up an enormous amount of mental energy. That energy doesn't just help you trade better. It helps you live differently. You no longer need to beat other people. You only need not to betray yourself. You don't need to be ahead of someone today. You need to move closer to the version of life you've chosen. This is what strategic thinking looks like. You can't control outcomes, but you can control process. In trading, that's your entry process, risk management, exits, and review. In life, that's the process by which you make choices every day. How you choose to wake up. What information you choose to consume. Who you choose to give time to. Whether you choose to react or think before acting. And let's talk about fear for a second. Because fear is what stops most traders from ever getting where they want to go. Not fear of losing money. Fear of being wrong. Fear of missing out. Fear of not being good enough. You see other traders posting wins, and you feel like you're falling behind. So you jump into trades you shouldn't take. You increase your position size beyond what's safe. You start trading setups you don't understand just because you can't stand the feeling of watching the market move without you. That's not trading. That's fear controlling you. And the only way to break free from that is to stop searching for certainty. You understand uncertainty is the default state, not a flaw to fix. In trading, you don't wait for perfect clarity to enter, because by then the opportunity is gone. You learn to act under imperfect conditions with risk under control. When you bring this into life, you stop delaying important decisions just because you're afraid of being wrong. You don't wait until you feel ready to change. You create a structure that lets you test, learn, adjust, and continue. A strategic trader doesn't optimize for one big winning trade. They optimize for surviving long enough for their edge to play out. Life is the same. The life you want isn't built through emotional breakthroughs. It's built through the ability to sustain the right choices over time. When you use trading as a place to train this, you develop a rare foundational skill, the ability to make good decisions even when you don't have positive emotions supporting you. Think about that. Most people only make good choices when they feel motivated, when they feel inspired, when everything is going well. But what happens when things get hard? They fall apart. Strategic thinking teaches you to keep going even when you don't feel like it, because you trust the system you built. Now let's talk about something most traders hate to admit: risk management. If you had to choose one concept in trading that can change your life the most, it wouldn't be entry strategy. It would be risk management. Because risk management, understood correctly, is not fear of losing. It's the art of designing the game so you cannot be knocked out by one mistake. And that is the foundation for building a sustainable life, one that doesn't destroy itself because of momentary emotion. Traders without strategic thinking often ask, how much can I make on this trade? Mature traders ask a completely different question. How much can I lose if I'm wrong? And will I still be able to keep playing afterward? That difference sounds small, but it transforms the way you live. When you bring the second question into life, you start viewing every decision with clarity. If this fails, what is the cost? And can I recover? Many people in real life live like traders with no risk management. They bet too big on one source of income. They pour their entire emotional world into one relationship. They sacrifice health for years to trade it for money with a vague belief that later they'll make it up. These are decisions without a stop loss. When things go wrong, they don't just lose outcomes. They lose the ability to make clear decisions afterward. They're so emotionally destroyed, so mentally exhausted, that they can't even think straight anymore. Applying strategic thinking from trading into life begins with learning to set stop losses for yourself. A stop loss in life isn't quitting. It's a boundary of self-respect. The point where you say, this is enough. Beyond this, I will self-destruct. A job that drains you mentally and physically needs a clear risk threshold. A bad habit needs a specific limit. A relationship that consistently erodes you needs a predefined exit line, not one discovered only after it's too late. In trading, you can't control the market, but you can always control position size. In life, you can't control circumstances, but you can control the degree of your exposure. You may not choose where you were born, but you can choose how much sacrifice you accept. You can choose how much time, energy, and health you're willing to trade for a goal. Here's another thing trading teaches brutally. Not every opportunity is worth participating in. Inexperienced traders see opportunity everywhere. Strategic traders see risk everywhere. And because they see risk clearly, they filter for better opportunities. Bring that into life, and you realize not every invitation should be accepted. Not every open door should be walked through. Not every opportunity fits the life you're trying to build. The life you want isn't built by saying yes to everything. It's built by saying no to many things that don't serve your long-term goal. Trading trains your ability to tolerate the feeling of missing out. You sit out a trade that looks tempting and you don't die. The market is still there. Another opportunity will come. Once this truly sinks in, FOMO in life also loses its power. You stop chasing other people's pace. You start living by the rhythm of the system you built. And let me tell you, that is freedom. Real freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want whenever you want. That's chaos. Real freedom is having enough control over your decisions that you're not constantly reacting to what everyone else is doing. You're moving at your own speed, in your own direction, toward your own destination. A core principle of risk management is protecting capital matters more than growing capital. In life, your capital isn't just money. It's health, clarity, self-trust, and your ability to make good decisions. If a choice makes you more money, but costs you chronic insomnia, destroys your clarity, and disconnects you from yourself, strategically that's a losing trade even if it looks like a win on the surface. Strategic traders always prioritize survival. They accept slower profits in exchange for sustainability. When you apply that to life, you stop forcing fast success. You build a pace that allows learning, adjustment, and continuation. You don't need a breakthrough in 1 year if the cost is collapse in the second. You choose slower, but long enough so the life you want has time to form. Now here's where most traders completely lose it. They start judging themselves by single outcomes. One losing trade and they think they're failures. One winning trade and they think they're geniuses. But trading isn't about single trades. It's about systems. It's about probability. When a trader truly starts to mature, a crucial shift happens. They stop seeing trading as a sequence of personal wins and losses and start seeing it as a probability game run by a system. From that moment, emotional pressure drops, clarity increases, and decisions become cleaner. This is the key bridge for applying strategic trading thinking to building the life you want. In trading, a single trade means nothing. It's only a data point in a very long series. When you understand this, you stop attaching excessive emotion to each outcome. You don't call yourself stupid because of one losing trade, and you don't call yourself a genius because of one winner. You start measuring yourself by how well you follow the system, not by the random outcome of a single decision. Life needs the same shift. Many people burn out because they judge their entire worth based on one isolated event. One failure at work makes them label themselves not good enough. One breakup makes them believe they're unworthy. That's single trade thinking applied to life. When you bring system thinking from trading into life, you start seeing each event as part of a long journey. A bad day no longer defines your whole life. A wrong decision doesn't erase your value. Probability thinking teaches a very practical truth. You can do everything right and still lose. And you can do many things wrong and still win. Once you understand this, you stop demanding perfect fairness from the world. You stop asking, why haven't I been rewarded yet? And start asking, am I repeating advantage-based behaviors long enough? That is a strategic question, not an emotional one. Applying this to life means you begin building small systems instead of relying on motivation. You don't wait for inspiration to act. You design an environment where doing the right thing becomes easier. In trading, you don't depend on emotions to stay disciplined. You depend on rules. In life, you don't depend on willpower to live well. You depend on structure. A system-based trader knows exactly what they do before, during, and after each trade. They have a preparation process, an execution process, and a review process. When you apply this to life, you stop living on impulse. You build stable routines. You create fixed time for learning, rest, and reflection. Not because you're rigid, but because you understand stability is the foundation for long-term creativity and growth. System thinking also helps you separate yourself from outcomes. You stop tying your human value to the equity curve. When you bring this into life, you stop tying your value to status, income, or external approval. You judge yourself by your consistency in living according to the vision you chose. That creates a deep calm, something no short-term success can replace. Another key piece of probability thinking is accepting losing streaks. A trader who can't tolerate losing streaks will eventually destroy their own system. Life has similar phases. There are stretches where you do everything right, but results still don't show up. If you look at life with single trade thinking, you will get discouraged, change direction constantly, and doubt yourself. But if you look through systems thinking, you understand losing streaks are unavoidable in any journey with an edge. Once you truly internalize this, you develop a rare inner strength, the ability to keep doing the right thing even when rewards haven't appeared yet. That is the foundation of the life you want. Not because you see results immediately, but because you trust the structure you built. Just like a trader trusts the system after hundreds or thousands of trades, you trust your path after thousands of small decisions each day. Let me tell you about positioning, because this is where everything connects. One of the biggest differences between traders who survive long-term and those who stay stuck lies in something most people overlook: positioning. Beginner traders keep asking, "Where should I enter?" Strategic traders ask, "What position am I in within this game?" And that question, when brought into real life, can completely change how you build your career, finances, and lifestyle. In trading, your edge doesn't come from being smarter than the market. It comes from choosing setups where the structure is slightly tilted in your favor. You don't need to win every trade. You only need to consistently place yourself in situations where, if you're right, you gain more than you lose. And if you're wrong, you still survive. That is positioning, and applied to life, it helps you escape a common trap: competing where you have no advantage. Many people are exhausted not because they're incapable, but because they're playing the wrong game. They choose environments where success standards don't match who they are. They chase a definition of success designed for someone else. Like a trader trying to scalp when their temperament fits swing trading, they keep blaming themselves for not being good enough when the real problem is they're standing in the wrong position. Trading teaches a blunt lesson. The market doesn't reward effort, it rewards edge. You can work extremely hard and be very intelligent, but without an edge, long-term results still work against you. Life is similar. Effort matters, but effort in the wrong place produces burnout. Strategic thinking forces you to step back and ask, where do I have a natural advantage? Where can I build one over time? A position-based trader doesn't try to be present in every market, every time frame, every condition. They filter. They accept missing out. And that missing out lets them focus energy on the best fit situations. When you bring this into life, you stop trying to become good at everything. You start building life around what you do best or what you can become best at if you invest long enough. In trading, edge can come from boring things: better discipline, more patience, tighter risk management. No genius required, no secret required. In life, your advantage might be simple too: deep focus, long-term stamina, honest communication, the ability to learn slowly but solidly. When you design your career and lifestyle around these edges, you stop forcing yourself to keep up with others. Positioning also teaches something important. You shouldn't always be in the market. The highest edge trader is not the one who trades the most, but the one who knows when to stay out. Staying out isn't fear. It's understanding the current position has no advantage. In life, that means knowing when to stop expanding, stop proving, stop chasing goals that no longer align with your long-term vision. When you apply this, you design a different rhythm. You stop cramming your schedule just to look busy. You create space to observe, think, and adjust your position. Like a trader waiting for price to reach a clean zone, you wait for the right conditions before committing deeply. And paradoxically, that waiting helps you move faster long-term. A deep truth of positioning is you don't need to beat others. You only need to win your own game. In trading, you're not directly competing with anyone. The market doesn't know you exist. You're competing only with your own ability to stay disciplined. Life is the same. When you stop comparing and stop chasing other people's pace, you free up huge mental energy. That energy is used to build depth, not to race on the surface. Positioning also changes how you view money. Money stops being a measure of your worth and becomes a tool for creating safer future positioning. You don't try to maximize income at any cost. You build financial structure that gives you options. Just like keeping drawdown low gives you room to recover in trading, keeping living costs reasonable gives you room for freedom in life. When you truly apply this strategic thinking, you realize the life you want isn't found by doing more. It's found by standing in the right place. You don't need to become some perfect version of yourself. You only need to become someone who chooses the right position, the right game, and stays long enough for the edge to compound. Now let's talk about time, because this is where most traders completely miss the point. When a trader goes far enough, they discover a quiet but heavy truth. Big results don't come from big hits. They come from not breaking the chain of small decisions. That's the essence of compounding, and it's the most important bridge for using trading thinking to build a future without needing to predict it. Beginner traders chase the trade of a lifetime. One huge winner to change everything, one fast streak to prove they're right. Strategic traders think differently. They know a good system only needs a small edge repeated long enough with risk controlled. They don't need the market to favor them. They only need time to be on their side. And once you internalize this, your view of life changes at the root. Your life today isn't the result of one big decision in the past. It's the result of thousands of small decisions repeated daily. How you sleep, how you spend, how you react under stress, how you choose avoidance or confrontation. All of it is compounding, whether you're aware of it or not. Trading just reveals the compounding process faster and more clearly, because the market doesn't let you hide from consequences for long. Stacking decisions is the core of strategic thinking. A good decision doesn't have to change your life immediately. It only has to make the next decision easier to do right. When you cut a loss according to plan today, you stack trust in your system. When you don't trade in bad conditions, you stack clarity. When you keep size small, you stack survival. And those small things, repeated long enough, create differences outsiders mistake as luck. Bring this into life, and you stop chasing dramatic turning points. You start caring about trajectory. Not where you are today, but the direction you're moving. Reading a little each day. Keeping a small promise to yourself. Not reacting immediately when emotions rise. These don't feel like success, but they are quietly steering your future. Trading teaches patience that is not passive waiting. It's structured patience. You don't sit there hoping. You prepare. You define conditions. You wait for the right time. And when it arrives, you act decisively. The life you want requires the same kind of patience. Not delaying out of fear, but knowing that acting early under the wrong conditions ruins long-term compounding. A trader who understands compounding won't destroy the system because of a few losses. They know breaking discipline is the fastest way to reverse accumulated edge. Life is the same. Many people don't fail from lack of effort. They fail because they break their compounding chain through impulsive decisions. One-time quitting. One-time returning to old habits. One-time compromising on what they know is wrong. Each time doesn't just erase progress. It weakens trust in themselves. Strategic thinking helps you see time as an ally, not an enemy. Beginners fear time because they want results now. Mature traders respect time because they know edge needs time to show itself. Apply this to life and you stop punishing yourself with, "Why am I not there yet?" You start asking, "Am I moving in the right direction? And do I have the patience to stay on this path?" A deep truth about compounding is that it's unforgiving to repeated wrong decisions. A small mistake repeated can destroy the whole system. Trading forces you to be honest about self-sabotaging behaviors. Overtrading, revenge trading, breaking risk, not technical errors but perception errors. Life has the same versions. Chronic overwork, avoiding hard conversations, emotional spending, living misaligned with your values. If you don't identify and stop them, compounding will do the rest against the future you want. When you truly understand stacking decisions, you stop obsessing over being right immediately. You just need to be right long enough. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You only need each day not to betray the system you chose. And over time, that loyalty creates a life others call effortlessly achieved. Ultimately, compounding teaches a humble lesson. The future doesn't need to be predicted. It needs to be prepared. You don't have to know exactly where you'll be in 10 years. You only have to know whether today's decisions are tilting the scale toward the life you want. When you use trading as a daily training ground for this, you're building the future in the most sustainable way possible. Quiet, not dramatic, but extremely certain. So where does all of this leave you? Right here, right now, with a choice. You can keep trading the way you've been trading. Reacting, hoping, praying that the next trade will be the one that changes everything. Or you can shift. You can stop seeing trading as just a way to make money and start seeing it as a training camp for strategic thinking. A place where every decision you make is teaching you something about who you are and who you're becoming. Trading was never just about money. Trading is a compressed environment where every weakness in your decision making gets magnified and every hidden strength gets revealed quickly. If you treat trading only as a way to make money, it will drain you. But if you treat trading as a training camp for strategic thinking, it can become the foundation for building the life you want. At this point, you stop asking, "How do I trade better?" in the usual sense. The question becomes, how do I become the kind of person who can consistently make good decisions in trading and in life? And when the question changes, the answer changes too. You stop hunting for new strategies. You stop chasing formulas. You turn inward to build the system within you. Trading taught you that you don't need to be right to win. You only need a structure strong enough to be wrong without getting knocked out. Bring that into life and you stop living in fear of being imperfect. You allow yourself to test, learn, and adjust. Not with resignation, but with a clear system that protects you from major self-destruction. You also learn decisions matter more than outcomes. A correct decision with a bad outcome is still a correct decision. A wrong decision with a lucky outcome is still a wrong decision. Apply this to life and you start judging yourself by a more mature standard. You stop letting a good or bad day define your worth. You look at how you think, how you respond, and how well you hold your principles under pressure. All the strategic thinking you trained through trading begins connecting naturally. Vision guides decisions. Decisions shape environment. Environment nurtures habits. Habits create results. Results reinforce vision. These aren't separate concepts anymore. They become a living loop you can observe and adjust daily. At the deepest level, trading teaches full responsibility for your life. No blaming the market. No blaming circumstances. No blaming others. After a loss, you review the decision structure. When a life phase feels unstable, you review your living system. Same mindset, same attitude. And that produces a different kind of inner power. You also realize freedom doesn't come from avoiding risk. It comes from managing risk well enough to have choices. Freedom in trading is the right to stay out when conditions aren't right. Freedom in life is the right to say no to things that don't serve your long-term vision. Once you have choice, you're no longer dragged by emotion, social pressure, or fear of missing out. By now, the life you want is no longer a vague picture in your head. It becomes a logical consequence of how you live each day. You don't need extreme motivation. You need a good enough system. You don't need to predict the future. You need to create positions that remain stable, even if the future turns out differently. Just like in trading, you don't know which trade will win, but you know that if you keep following the system, long-term results will lean in your favor. And here is the final connection, the most important point. Your life is the most important strategic project you will ever manage. Everything else is just a component: work, money, relationships, health, time, creativity. They're all variables inside one system. When you bring mature trading thinking into designing that system, you stop living passively. You become the designer. From this moment on, every small decision matters. Not because it will change everything immediately, but because it is tilting your life's trajectory in a certain direction. You don't need to do extraordinary things. You need to do the right things long enough in a system that doesn't self-destruct. Trading used correctly won't just give you profit. It gives you a brain that thinks strategically. And when you have that, you're no longer just a player in life's game. You become the designer of the game itself. So the question isn't whether you can design the life you want through trading. The question is, why not? Why not start today? Why not take this one trade, this one decision, and use it as the first brick in building something real? The market is waiting. Your life is waiting. And the only question left is whether you're ready to stop reacting and start designing.